Hello, and welcome to the Noble Arms Manual. We're going to be looking at a new variant today. It is what is finally replacing the combo builds that were removed from viability with the last ban list and the loss of Auroradon. This build is an adventure-focused build, and it's probably going to be the most popular form of United Noble Knights from now until it either gets hit on the ban list or until we integrate the Pendulum Round Table combos, which come out with, I believe, Darkwing Burst. So, this is the first time since we shifted to United Noble Knights, which brought in the Infernobles and Synchros, that the deck has moved away from a turn 1 combo focus. Ever since they released in Rise of the Duelist, the deck has been rather combo heavy, no matter what form you play it in. But with the loss of Auroradon, it became much more difficult to reliably combo off. And we started looking at what sort of deck we could build to replicate our success. And to do that, we've decided to turn back towards the older style of Noble Knights, the Arthurian style that I played when I first started using this deck competitively for inspiration. And we decided to look at resource efficiency, grind game, and rather than having one specific combo, having options. And what this means is that there's a lot of actual flexibility in deck building, so building this sort of list is not going to look exactly like this, and I will update the other parts of the guide to reflect that. But for the most part, the information contained in those videos was generic enough that it should be applicable here. But for this video, we're going to do a basic overview of how the deck functions, and then I'll drill into specific lines and such if I feel necessary in updates to the other chapters of the guide. So, let's start with why adventure. And one thing that may immediately stand out to anyone who's familiar with the Adventure engine is that we're running 3 copies of Fateful Adventure, which is a card that is pretty much always run at 1. And the Adventure engine itself is extraordinarily powerful. It sees high levels of competitive success and is combined with a great number of different decks. But this card is always run at 1 typically, because the point is to get it live along with the token off Rite of Aramesir, which is why you run the 4 searches for Rite as well. But this deck actually has a unique synergy, and not just the battle protection of Fateful that everyone always forgets about. Fateful Adventure, on its own, ignoring its synergy with the token, can actually, number 1, always ensure that we have an Arms live in hand, because it can search Arms of Light, Dome, which is a named Noble Arms card. It doesn't have any material synergy in its effects, but because it's a named card, it can be used with the other knights. So, for that reason, just right out the gate, this card in hand will get us a Noble Arms. We don't have to rely on opening one. And this lets us work with all the cards that require one. The other thing is, it can swap a dead card in our hand out for any number of different things. If we just need a big body or beater, Griffin. If we have the token, Griffin becomes a negate. If we need a warrior or even a fire warrior, we can grab Magicore. Magicore can also special from hand if we have the token, becoming free. So, Fateful itself just lets us put useful cards into hand. It also lets us reliably grab Draco back to out specific floodgates, if those, which is something this deck can struggle with. It's so versatile that really we like to open. We're fine with opening it. If we get it off right, that's fine. But we're actually just fine with having just Fateful for everything that it provides. At its absolute worst, it's just a level 4 body by searching and discarding Aquamancer, searching right and summoning the token. It lets us swap any card in hand for something materially useful. It's a very good card for that reason. Now, the next thing people might notice is that almost every knight in this deck is being run at 1. Even the normal summons, the traditional normal summons, Madrite, Ogier, and Boars. And if you've looked at previous guides for this deck, you will have noticed that the typical number was 7 normal summons. The reason we're not running this is fairly self-evident if you're familiar with Adventure. If the Adventure engine is going full power, normal summon monster effects can't be resolved. So we're using our normal summon much more generically in this list. Now, if we have a hand where you actually want to use a normal summon effect, there's a pretty good chance that we're going to have one anyway, because we have 4 cards here that can all search any of our normals, and Durandal are 3 more that can search OGA, so it's not like we don't have relatively reliable access to decent normal summons. But in general, this build takes the toolbox element of older Noble Knight builds and really ramps it up to 11. Pretty much everything's at 1. So we're back to trying to get until Noble Arms are needed once again in Grave on our first turn as a main priority. It used to be the #1 goal. It's kind of shifted to a secondary goal in the combo builds, and it's back to being the main one. You really want to do that. If you can get both copies off Boars, that's great. And Isolde can summon Boars, and then as long as you had Fateful, which you're running 10 copies of, 10 copies of, you'll be able to get at least Dunal. So Boars will dump you both of them and Guinevere, so you'll have all that set up. Or Ogier to dump 1. But this, on your turn 3, you really get to combo into whatever knight is best for the situation. And that can be Brothers for draw. It can be Costing for the double normal. Also, we use him because as an extender, he can be made live easily through Fateful searching Dunal. Put Dunal on a monster, and now you can summon Costing from hand. It can be Monji, it can be Galahad. Galahad's finally back into the list after quite a while out. Galahad Recycle Gawain is just such a cool play. So you have a lot of options. The deck is more complicated to pilot, and it's definitely more fragile. This list may or not end up being the final one, but we're always tweaking little ratios here as we see what works best. But the general idea is fairly solid, and that is that set up boards as you can. There are lots of cool plays like 5-Rex summon Ogre for an extender. Then on the opponent's turn, 5-Rex can summon Riser, milling Hector, or even better, actually, what I like to do is mill Enchantress, dropping Riser to 4. Then OA into Hector, 5 and 4 to 9 into Charles, and then on the next opponent's turn, you have Aquamancer to go into right into Fateful, and you have Hector in Grave. So there's all kinds of little setups you can do. And I'll make a more specific showcase of those lines. But basically, more setup focused, more toolbox, more find the piece that you're looking for. It's much harder to pilot. This deck is not going to be tiered. It's solidly rogue. It's more fragile than ever, and the opening, while you can get up to 4 or even 5 disrupt hands in some very niche scenarios, it's harder. But it's a lot of fun. And I have some replays I'm going to use to show off how this deck runs. So, starting off, we are going against, looks like Earth Fairy with the Shizu stuff. And we're just going to lead with a normal summon play off our Boars. Ready Fusion is just fantastic. Carbrella is a warrior. I'm actually using Flame now. The build's adjusted some between replays. And we searched out Gawain specifically for use on our turn 3. And here you're going to see the Ogre line. Now, this deck is very frustrating. It really does a lot of work to try and mill you out. And then the tire tap here was not something I was prepared for, unfortunately. Not the end of the world, just annoying. He can do what he likes. Basically what we're going to do is just drop bodies on board before he can mill us out, and use our extra deck to clear. He's going to make an effort, though. Get out of here. And now we're going to start picking the board apart. Okay. Here we're against the new Kshatriya deck, which I have to say is a very interesting deck coming up. I'm curious to see what it's going to do. Fenrir in particular seems like it's going to be a staple of side decks. It's a better Pankratops in a lot of ways. It loses out on the fast effect nature, but it's very good. The deck in general is just obnoxious. Yeah. And you're seeing the use of Fateful Adventure here to kind of set up cards. In this case, we definitely wanted Griffin live because we don't know how damaging this back row is going to be. He's going to steal some zones, but we get rid of one of the impermanents with Griffin, and we get a beater out of it too. So, certainly can't complain. And do a nice little king shuffle here. And what's nice is we get the Griffin negate back, and we also have Ogre, and we get to go into Charles using Calc. So, yeah, he's gonna result here, but in this case, I went for Baron because I wanted to negate that. That's why I didn't go for Charles. I could have done either. Pretty decent top deck on his part. Steal my Baron, very annoying. How dare he? But it's fine. We have plenty of cards at this point. Just gonna get rid of that. And now you get to see Galahad in all of his glory. God, I missed using him. Put some kings back. We're going to want those in a second. The rare 3 material Kustanine. And we're going to do the crash again. And what I'm working towards here is a Charles setup, with the added bonus points of getting a few extra draws out of the whole deal. Perfect draw right there. The Renaud just made my life way easier. And it should be fairly obvious at this point that there's really nothing he can do. Okay. So here we are facing Dogmatica Fusion Cybertrack. It's a weird kind of pile. Actually gets a few good hits in on me though, and I messed up by not leading with the die. That was a big misplay on my part. But it's fine. We get over it. The nice thing about having all these equipable, these equip spells that re-equip onto the field is you can reuse them for stuff like Oliver and discards. You get a lot of nice uses out of all this. So here we're going for a fully protected Charles with Gearfried in hand, ready to make some plays next turn. Unfortunately, he does that, which, annoying. We're just going to have to eat it here. And we go for Hector in situations like these because we know it's going to die, so we have a body we can use. Now let's not make the same mistake twice, so we're going to make sure we get our die out. Double tuner is a bit annoying, but not unworkable. I love floating the king back out, or floating rank by king back into Charles. Just a great recycle play. There's not really a big reason to do it at this point. I'm kind of just styling on him because I'm annoyed. And there we go. Alright. Here we're going to face off against kind of old school hero deck. Kind of neat using all the fusions. Heroes are such an interesting deck to me. They have so many different cards. They've really been... I don't know if there's any other deck that has so many cards and it only runs, what, maybe 6, 7 of them in the competitive builds. Now, of note here, if we chose to, we could have tried to just go for a drought play using Dunal and not done die, but we would have been very susceptible to a hand trap in that situation. I didn't want to put myself in that position where if they chose to use the negate there, I would be significantly weakened. It's a matter of which way you want to go on that one. And here we're really just setting ourselves up for next turn. We're choosing to play a little conservatively, make sure we have resources to go forward, because that's the thing about this deck. You're really trying to play the long game. Plasma. Classic. And here we're going to go for, I believe, we're going for a play with Baron, because we want to negate the next spell he drops. We're going to take that out. And as an aside, what you saw there was Bedivere moving Joyous off to be able to drop Gearfried. Great classic extension of the old Bedivere hot play. Alright, just got 2 more. We're going to go with this one here. Versus Springans. So, not, the biggest deck, but always fun. Springans are sticky. The cool thing is we open with a lot of very versatile cards. So here we're going to go, and what we're doing is we're going for the token because we don't really need any of our normal summon things, but we would like to bait that. And basically, what going for the token lets you do is threaten Draco back, and Draco back, of course, is pretty powerful removal, so they're generally going to disrupt it when they can. And that's why we choose to do that. And here, rank 5. The kings are so powerful. Just getting all these equip spells to use their effects. And then you get to float with Charles when you're done with it. I believe I'm going... Yeah, at this point we're just trying to tear this board down. Arf is still a very good equip spell. Just tear the back row apart. Now we can make Charles. That was my mistake. Forgetting that it was protected, but that's okay. Yep, and here he's Coops. And the last one, I say the best for last. You're gonna prepare to see these cards a lot in the coming format. Admittedly, I'm not sure why people keep trying to do these spite hybrids. The best version of the deck is pretty known, but they add a lot to Live Twins, I'll give them that. This is a very sticky deck. It just kind of recurs every turn, turn after turn. Very annoying. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and lead with right. Same reason. Powerful and threatens removal, so if they have any way to disrupt it, they're generally going to do it here. Chainlink 6, how about that? And now we're going to see the pop. Okay, now we can actually start playing a little bit. Gonna get that back in hand for later. Let's see what we hit. And what we're doing here is we can't really extend into anything, so we're instead choosing to kind of set up a sticky board of our own. You know, they're very grindy, we're very grindy. We're kind of hoping we're going to put this game into a more resource-focused position. They have a lot of cards, so we're on the back foot here, but we have a lot of protection. And one thing to note about Evil Twin decks is they don't actually get up to big attack stats very easily. Yeah. So he's passed it back to us, which gives us reign to, you know, really flex our resources against his at this point. Here comes a pop. Let's see where he's using it. Now, I don't know why he went for the Boars. The Boars has Destiny. That was, I mean, he clearly messed that up. But, okay, Gearfried's still not going to resolve. One day we'll get it on board. Best removal. And one thing to note is I am very deliberately trying to deny him the Evil Twin paired effects. That's why I bounced the other one the first time through. Now, of note here is I can't actually kill him, I can just get him low. So he's still got a load of cards to work with, so I'm going to put oh, that's right, I'm going for the grave here. So I actually got a little worried here, to be honest. But it'll work out. As I said, they kind of struggle to get really big attack values, and Charles was protected, at least I thought, but he proved me wrong there. Luckily, he couldn't get over Brother's defense. And with all of our cards in hand, yeah. And at this point, we're just putting ourselves in a position to close the game out. I want to clear that last little bit of back row, just in case. Don't walk into a mirror force if you don't have to. But we're not letting that happen. And just like that, we have game. So, a lot of replays, but hopefully it gave a little bit of an idea of how the deck flows. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty flexible. There's a lot of variance in what you can do with the extra deck, what fusion/instant targets you want, what you can unicorn, access code. You can go with the other links too, Phoenix and the like. Do you want to run a Zeus? Zeus is always a fun card, but hardly mandatory. You have a lot of flexibility. You can add other elements of the Brave package if you want, adjust extender ratios. I was running Ivan for a couple of days just because I love him. He's such a fun card. Really this kind of build lets you play with your creativity, lets you try cards you may not otherwise have used in the deck before. So yeah, I will have to make sure I update other parts of the guide to reflect how this variant runs, but hopefully that gives you a good starting point. Have a good day.